We are back, baby. After a few days off, Duke men's basketball back in action a little bit later tonight in the Sweet 16. Game day has arrived for the Duke Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is J.J. Jackson, and it's so great to have you here with us on Friday, March 29th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop for everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. A big Sweet 16 weekend coming up for Duke men's basketball tonight. We also got the Duke women's basketball team taking on UConn in the Sweet 16 on Saturday night. Best of luck to Carol Lawson and that squad there. But it's game day for the men's basketball team. We've been talking a lot about this game coming up against Houston. Really enjoyed our Locked On crossover yesterday as I was able to have a show with Parker Ainsworth, the host of Locked On Cougs, breaking down this game. And we're going to continue to do that with our good pal Jordan Mann, who's back with us twice in 1 week. It's that big of a week. We had to bring him back on in. So make sure that you stick around for a great episode here today in this one. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, make sure that you watch our show each and every day on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, share it with your friends. Again, just so grateful for all the support here of our program. Follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils, and I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So without further ado, excited to bring him on in. He's back once again. Jordan Mann is here with us, ready to get going in the Sweet 16. How are you, man?
Yeah, brother, I'm good. We'll talk about a crazy night last night as we'll get into it, but definitely happy to see Alabama advance for sure for Duke fans, and now Duke has to take care of business against Houston tonight. So it's going to be a great weekend of college basketball.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Two ACC teams were in action last night in Sweet 16 games, talking about the Clemson Tigers and the North Carolina Tar Heels. Only one of them advanced. Two ACC teams are in action tonight in the NC State Wolfpack and the Duke Blue Devils. NC State will play Marquette just prior to the Duke game. Once that game is over, they'll exit the floor. You've got the 30-minute warm-up period, and then Duke takes on Houston and what's going to be a fun game in Dallas. We're going to break it all down here on today's show. There's probably no one out there who's more prepared to talk about this Houston team than Jordan Mann himself after you put out yet another kind of breakdown video, taking a look at the action and everything that they're trying to do. Tell us a little bit about putting that together, Jordan, first, and then get into what you think is going to be important in putting this together for Duke.
Yeah, so I mean, how I go about it is I watch probably about 3 or 4 games worth of film, and I just watch it on mute. So that's where the mispronunciation of names comes into play, JJ, because I don't watch it with volume. But I watch those, and then I break down their most recent game and do it on StreamYard, and just basically 7 years of coaching experience and a few years of playing college ball just all tied into one, and everything just kind of run together. But yeah, I mean, look, Houston's really good, dude. They're the toughest team in the country physically. Like, they're going to get in you, and I'm curious to see how Duke runs their sets. A lot of slip screen actions could be available against Houston, but Houston loves a blitz ball screen, so Duke just has to be strong with the ball going against Houston and limit transition buckets.
So we've got a lot to talk about here. I want your thoughts first on this. After watching them play a few times, found it really interesting listening to the great Jay Billis of ESPN, of course, a member of the Brotherhood, former Duke basketball player, earlier this week, making the point. He says, as I've said for the last 3 years running, Houston leads the nation in playing hard. That's not an actual stat that people can keep up with. Obviously, that is incredibly subjective, but Jay Billis made it known that for 3 years running now, Houston has led the nation in playing hard. Is that obvious for you to see? Does that make sense when Jay Billis says something like that?
Yeah. I mean, no, Jay Billis is spot on. Like I said, like, one of my favorite stats is Duke has 360 some offensive rebounds on the season, and Duke is a really good offensive rebounding team to me. And Houston has 130 more offensive rebounds than Duke does because they just get after it. And 9 players on their team average a steal a game or better. So that's including their big man and their backups. They go at it. And the one knock on Houston the last few years is, to me, they've never been battle tested until March. They came from the American Conference, and then their first year in the Big 12 or second year, whatever it is, they win it. It's Kansas dominated that conference for decades, and Houston comes in and just, bam, we're number one. And so that's what scares me about Houston is they've run through the gauntlet of the Big 12. They've been battle tested throughout the season, and now they're ready for March. And Duke's going to have to bring their A game because Houston's going to they're going to come in and be ready.
So a stat like that, and speak to your coaching experience and your playing experience at the college level, is that more the type of players that they've put in their program? Is that starting at the top with Kelvin Sampson? I'm assuming the proper answer is a marriage of the two. But when you look at it, what really do you think that comes down to?
Yeah, I'm sure there's habits and there's tangibles that these guys have, and intangibles that these guys have for Kelvin Sampson, like how Leonard Hamilton loves just have a tall starting 5 at Florida State because it bodes well with them. Oregon always has 2 or 3 like 6'10", 6'11" athletes on the court, and that's how they get to the Sweet 16 every other year, it seems like. And for Houston, it's just like, I need a guy with a high motor. It could be a 6'2" point guard. It could be a 6'9" 5 guy. Like, I don't care if he's undersized in the post, he's going to get rebounds. And that's what's happened for them. They don't have a 6'10", 6'11" guy that just goes in there. I think their starting front court's like 6'8", 6'9". And they have a backup point guard who's averaging he's had 6 or more rebounds in 12 games this year, had 10 against Iowa State, and he's listed on ESPN.com at 6'2", 175. So he just gets in there and just gets after it. And so they just look for guys with high motors, and it pays off. It's just like, hey, shot goes up, all other 4 guys are crashing. We're getting the offensive rebound.
It's going to be fun to see how this game unfolds, to see if Duke can match the energy and effort, because unfortunately that's been something that Jon Scheyer has questioned throughout the year. It looked like Duke had a bit of a reset last weekend in the first and second round games, but now they've had a few days off. They've been back to North Carolina, more people talking about this Duke team in particular, traveling over to Dallas, longer travel that they're having to go through than Houston did specifically. So let's see whether or not Duke's going to be able to come out with a lot of energy and effort on their side of the floor. Do you think that's a big concern for this Duke team tonight? Or I'd like to think that it is March and the guys really kind of hit that reset and they're ready to rock and roll today.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a distraction or anything for Duke. I think Duke knows. Jeremy Roach said, I think, in his press conference this week that Duke has to win the first 4 minutes of the game. And that's the truth. Like, Duke has to come out and be locked in the first 4 minutes like they were against James Madison, because Houston's going to be that way. So the key for Duke is first 4 minutes of the first half, last 4 minutes of this first half, and the first 4 in the second half.
Try to win those moments, and I think you're going to be in a good position to win this basketball game. All right, let's take our first break here on the show, and then we got to continue talking a little bit about what to expect. It's Duke and Houston in the Sweet 16, and we'll continue here in just a moment. Locked On Blue Devils is brought to you by our friends over at Better Together. Is your bracket busted, but you want to stay in the game? We're introducing Better Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs talent, and you can play with your friends, not against them. Pick more or less on real-time player stats. Strategize with your partner to boost your odds and climb the leaderboard together. So grab a friend and join the social daily fantasy movement. It provides a sense of camaraderie and enhances the social experience of watching sports. Makes you realize that daily fantasy sports is fun alone, but like a lot of things, it's just so much better with friends. Put your group chat to the test and let's you prove yours is the best. Download Better Together now from the App Store. Sign up using promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Play with me in the contest. Remember the code Locked On, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. Locked On Blue Devils also brought to you by our friends over at Manscaped. This episode is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions. That's right, Manscaped. Make sure you groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Clear out the winter bush with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom like the springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our special offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code LOCKEDON for 20% off plus free shipping. It's pretty awesome. The 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little bit off the top and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. Also features dual LED spotlights to guide you through the darkest winter debris. Navigate with confidence in your delicate areas. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, at manscaped.com. Nothing like a little spring cleaning in your pants. Moving forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, I'm JJ Jackson alongside my pal Jordan Mann, who is from the Big J and Little J show. He's got video breakdowns before and after games throughout this NCAA tournament run. Tell me a little bit about your work, the Big J and Little J show, if you will, Jordan.
Yeah, Big J and Little J show. We came out with basically a recap of Duke versus Vermont, James Madison, and the preview for the Houston game earlier this week. So check that out. It's on Apple and Spotify, and it's on YouTube as well. My YouTube is at jman_, and that's where you can find the video breakdowns. Have that recap of the Vermont game, recap of the James Madison game, and the preview for the Houston game. And the Houston game is getting a lot of traction, JJ, because I did not know it was Jamal Shad instead of Jamal Sheed, because I tried to put 2 and 2 together, because normally like lead is Lead and Sheed is Shead. So I was like, oh, but it's Shed. So Houston fans let me have it in the comment section, and rightfully so. He's one of their better players. But again, that's what happens when you watch games on mute and you don't pay attention to how names are pronounced.
The content is great nonetheless, right? And it certainly won't be the last time someone butchers a pronunciation of somebody. So go check it out and support it.
Yeah, JJ, I wanted to challenge the fans of Houston. Like, okay, I'm going to give you my hometown name. And it's Mebane, but it'll be pronounced Mebane for everybody else. So I don't want to hear it when it comes to pronunciations.
There you go. I love it. All right, well, let's talk a little bit more about this game tonight. It's Houston and Duke in the Sweet 16. The start of the game is going to be critical. What kind of a role, though, individually for Duke's starting 5? Let's kind of run through that here. What do you think they can do this evening to truly make an impact? And let's start right at the one. Tyrese Proctor, in a game like this, what kind of an impact can he have?
Proctor just got to hit open shots. Like, he's had a lot of open looks the first 2 games of the tournament so far. He started getting hot late against JMU, got it going and shot 7 of 15, I think. And he's got to hit the open ones. And I'd like to see him get aggressive and go to the rim. That is the recipe for success against Houston, is getting them in foul trouble. And it just depends how the whistles be blown tonight, honestly, JJ, because that's how A&M stayed in it, because Houston's 4 of their starting 5 fouled out. And so Proctor only has, I think, 70 free throw attempts on the season or something crazy, something small. Maybe it's like 50. But he needs to be aggressive and get to the line 3-4 times for Duke to give basically Houston in foul trouble.
All right, let's move over to Jeremy Roach. What can he do to be successful this evening?
His mid-range game. It looked like it came back
Most
against James
definitely,
Madison.
yeah.
He can do a very good job of, he's not going to blow by the defender, but if he can just manipulate the defender with him looking like he's going all the way downhill to go to the rim and do that quick pull up about 12 to 15 feet, he can hit 2 or 3 of those. That can really open up Duke's offense and open up the floor more for other Duke players to score.
Jared McCain.
Keep shooting.
The man.
If you got a breath of fresh air, you have an inch, take it. Because Houston's not going to give up a lot of open looks, but they'll give up some space to a shooter, and you just got to bury it. Contested or not, McCain's got to be hot. Like, that's the key. He's got to hit open threes. Contested threes, too.
Mark Mitchell.
Do not look to draw a foul, Mark Mitchell. You just got to go up strong. That's what – he was 1 of 6 against James Madison, and 4 or 5 of those were, again, he's 6'8", but he was going up like he's 6'6". You need to go up like you're 7 foot tall against Houston, and you got to finish strong and go attack the rim.
All right, and then finally, Kyle Filipowski on the inside.
Flip's got to keep being patient. He's doing a fantastic job being patient when the double comes after him the first 2 games of the tournament. I'll be curious to see how Houston plays him, if they wanted to be more so an island one-on-one in the short post, the short corner. And so let the game come to you like always. And if they do trap you, be strong with it and go through your reads and just no live ball turnovers. If you're going to throw a bad pass, throw it in the stands. Don't throw it right to a Houston defender. Let it be a dead ball turnover.
All right. Then what about, did I just say Kyle Filipowski, or are we on to the bench now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're on the bench now. Yeah.
The bench in particular. Talk to me.
Sean Stewart, baby. Go 85 miles an hour. I don't care if it's a school zone or not against Houston, because that's all Houston's going to do is go fast.
Stay active. Yeah.
You have 5 fouls. Him and Ryan Young, you have 5 fouls. If you get in foul trouble, so be it. But you got to leave it all on the court tonight, because Houston's going to be physical and they're going to be fast. Just play fast. And you can think later, but you got to play fast against Houston when you're on the court.
So pace of play, obviously, when you're going up a team like Houston, who's only given up 57 points per game, that's a big discussion, I'm sure, that Duke has been having throughout the week. You did a breakdown. You see a game like Iowa State in the Big 12 title game where Houston just really gets blown out, and that doesn't happen very frequently. Is there any formula for how quickly you should try? I know you're saying play fast.
Yeah.
Or is it better for a team to kind of settle down and really try and find a good look? Because there were parts this season where Duke was one of the best teams in the entire country just running half-court sets.
Yeah, no, that's true, but you got to pick your spots. So, like, Houston will give up points in transition just because they are flying around so much. They'll overdo it to where it becomes an open look and you can hit them. That's where Texas A&M stayed in the game. Texas A&M would basically penetrate and kick in transition, and they'd one more pass and they hit open three. An extra pass, open three. They'd make a layup in transition. You got to beat them in transition and don't give up any transition buckets against Houston. That's the key, is transition points.
Is Jon Scheyer ready for tonight's game, you think? Is his coaching staff ready to go?
I think Scheyer's going to be ready, and I think people forget, like, Duke did have a close scrimmage against Houston, I think, going into last season. And
Correct.
So, like, Filipowski and them have played them, and obviously nobody knows how that went, but Duke is familiar with this defense with Filipowski and Proctor. They played against them in a close scrimmage, and so is Roach. And at the end of the day, Scheyer, too, they're still going to just hammer home the narrative in that locker room that everybody thinks you're soft. Everybody thinks you're soft. Go prove that you're not soft. And I think they're going to keep riding that wave. And I think the key for Duke is they've had 2 big wins this season where I'm like, at Virginia Tech and at NC State, where I thought they were big wins to really take Duke to that next step. And then the following game, Duke lost. And I think this is, after the JMU game, which was the best game of the season, you can't let that happen. You got to keep your foot on the gas and take that extra step to make it to the Elite Eight.
I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Later tonight, Duke taking on Houston in the Sweet 16 for a spot in the Elite Eight. We're hopeful that the season can continue for our Duke Blue Devils. Let's go ahead and take one more timeout here on today's show, and we'll wrap things up when we return here on Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys are able to take it to the next level. The Yukon Huskies can only be described as the Nissan Armada. This one seat is as hardcore as it gets out there, so it's no wonder why they've secured a spot already in the Elite Eight after last night's win, and will battle Illinois in the Elite Eight round for a chance to play in the Final Four. They're a favorite picked by many to make a run all the way to a championship, and built incredibly tough, just like the Nissan Armada. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, we close down today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Again, JJ Jackson alongside Jordan Mann. Follow him on X at JMan's Takes so you could be thinking with him at what he's thinking, watching the Duke basketball game a little bit later today. We got to talk about the action last night, though, because the Sweet 16 round got started. Saw a couple of games that were already played in the East region. The Yukon Huskies, a 30-point dub over San Diego State. That was a rematch of last year's title game. 30-point victory for Yukon. And then we saw Illinois play Iowa State, and it was the Fighting Illini that had just a 3-point win, but they led wire to wire. Iowa State never led in the basketball game. So UConn by 30, Illinois by 3. What are your thoughts on the East region as they go to the Elite Eight tomorrow?
UConn's just a wagon, dude. I mean, just play a game and win by single digits. Like, is that too much to ask? Because every game since last year has just been double digits. And Dan Hurley, look, I know a lot of Duke fans don't like Dan Hurley because obviously the Duke and UConn little rivalry there. But I really love Dan Hurley. And I love how petty he is. I love how outspoken he is about, like, the committee try to screw us this year with our bracket. Because at the end of the day, is it BS? Yes. But he is totally telling that to his kids in the locker room, and they're playing like that. Like, they're playing that pissed off, like, hey, they did screw us. So we're just going to go through everybody just like we did last year. And if I was a fan of the team of UConn, I would love it. Like, I'd love if Scheyer was a heel like that in public. You know, just make everybody not like us, and our guys are going to just run through everybody. So a 30-point win was impressive. And then Illinois, Terrence Shannon Jr., he's been killing this whole month now, I think, going back to the conference tournament. And Illinois, be interested to see how the next matchup goes for them, but I've been impressed with them offensively.
Yeah, he had 29 points last night to lead the way for Illinois in that one. You still think UConn gets the job done, though, and advances to the Final Four?
I do.
Yeah.
I got to see them. I got to see somebody stay with them, like to have a lead at halftime or something where I'm like, okay, UConn's uncomfortable here, because so far UConn's comfortable at every point of the game.
UConn has trailed for all of 30 seconds in March Madness so far, and then even crazier than that, I saw this last night, you have 60 minutes of second-half basketball once you've played your first 3 games in the NCAA tournament, right? 3 games, 3 20-minute second halves, 60 minutes. 58 and a half of those 60 minutes, UConn has been winning by double digits in the second half. That is silly.
Dude, it's nuts. But one last thing about UConn, I got to tell you this funny story. So my brother and I bet Stetson first to 10 points in the first game of the tournament against UConn because it was like plus 450 odds. And UConn had 33 points before Stetson got to the 10-point mark. So that was one of the worst bets of all time. It was like a $5 bet, but it was still hilarious to watch UConn just give 33 points and Stetson had 8.
Okay, let's go to the West region from last night. We saw Clemson knock off Arizona. Arizona, the 2 seed, 77-72, the final score in that one. And then Alabama takes down North Carolina. North Carolina, the first 1 seed, eliminated 89-87 in a shootout, a barn burner, particularly there in that first half. We went into this weekend just the 5th time since 1990 that all 8 top seeds, all 1s, all 2s, had made it to the Sweet 16 round. And then the first day of the Sweet 16 round, we lose 2 of them, as again, Arizona and UNC are eliminated. So in the West region, in Los Angeles, geographically way out of land for Clemson and Alabama to be playing for a chance to go to the Final Four. But that's what we will see tomorrow night there in LA. What did you make of last night's action?
Well, Caleb Love giveth and taketh away, because he shoots you in the games and he shoots you out of games. And you saw that at UNC during his career. And then RJ Davis also, both of them were 0-9 from 3 and could not throw a beach ball in the ocean. It was just crazy to watch. And look, I'm happy for Brad Burnell. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a good coach, and I'm happy to see him finally take that next step with Clemson basketball, and he deserves all that praise because I really do like him. And he was just killing Arizona on simple actions. And Arizona, look, Tommy Lloyd's he's not on the hot seat by any means, but it's never good when you're great in November and mediocre in March, and you got to flip that around. And so it was a great win for Clemson. And then Alabama, dude, I love their transition offense. Make or miss, they're putting a shot up in the first 5 seconds of the shot clock, and efficiently. They're not just throwing it up. They are getting good looks. And look, Nate Oates, they don't play any defense, but Miami proved last year you don't have to play defense to make the Final Four. You just got to have certain stops, and they did that in the second half. So
the ACC has at least 1 team in the Elite 8, trying to get maybe 3 if Duke and NC State are able to win a little bit later this evening. Again, Clemson plays Alabama in the West Region final. Those 2 teams already played once this year in the ACC-SEC Challenge. Duke played Arkansas, but it was Clemson and Alabama that were matched up in Tuscaloosa. Clemson went on the road and won by 8. However, this time, I think Alabama's offense is just too solid right now, and I don't know that Clemson's going to have enough to take them down. Alabama's trying to go both Clemson and Alabama have never been to the Final Four before. So that will change here.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And shout out Seth Davis for trying to call out the ACC, saying that the number one team in the ACC lost to a 3-seed SEC team, just completely ignoring the fact that Clemson was like the 6th or 7th team in the ACC and beat the number one Pac-12 team. So you got to love the ACC narrative of they just are not a good basketball conference.
Okay, how about outside of the Duke game? Let's do this. Gonzaga, Purdue, Creighton, Tennessee, the matchups that we see there in the Midwest. Which one are you more interested in?
Man, I'm interested probably in the Gonzaga-Purdue matchup because Gonzaga is obviously not like a 1 or 2 seed like they historically are, but this Gonzaga team looks pretty good. I've been very impressed with them early on. I thought they'd be upset. Honestly, first weekend proved me wrong. And so can Mark Few stop Zach Edey? Like, do you let him get his and then try and stop everybody else? Or do you stop everybody? Like, what's the game plan? And so I don't want Purdue to go all the way because I just hate watching that offense. Like, you can call me a hater. That's fine. I'll accept that. But I'm curious to see how Gonzaga guards Zach Edey.
Big games coming up a little bit later tonight. Let's circle it all the way back. Duke and Houston going head-to-head on CBS, 9:39 p.m. Eastern tip-off for those on the East Coast. Again, that's when we hope this game will start. But for what if NC State Marquette is a slow basketball game, got to wait for them to finish and clear the floor. How you feeling? Duke and Houston, what are those final keys to victory for the Blue Devils, Jordan?
Try and make anybody but Jamal Shedd the playmaker. He averages over 6 assists per game. He has 230 assists on the season. Everybody else on the team, the other 11 guys, have 210 combined. So make somebody else try and create off the dribble with Houston because you do that. Emmanuel Sharp, thinks his name. He is a good shooter, but he has a negative assist-to-turnover ratio. So he's not very good at decision-making when he's putting the ball on the floor. Make him put the ball on the floor and close out on Emmanuel Sharp and LJ Cryer because they're three-point shooters. Shedd is a 31% three-point shooter, so we live. Other two guards, you got to run them off the line, take that part of the game away. And then for Duke, limit the turnovers and limit live ball turnovers. That's what killed Duke against UNC twice, and you've seen it in the losses. When Duke turns it over, live ball turnovers, and you give a team that's good in transition like a Houston, the extra possessions, that'll cost you. So limit those.
On the Locked On crossover yesterday, Parker Ainsworth from Locked On Cougs, go back and listen to that show if you haven't already, was asking me a little bit about the crowd turnout, what I thought it could look like geographically. Look, Houston is way closer to Dallas than Durham, North Carolina is. And for that reason, I think there are going to be a ton of Houston fans that are there. But I had to remind people that Duke is a massive, massive basketball brand. We're everywhere. We're all over the place. I still think there's going to be a big Duke turnout there in Dallas. We're going to the home of Kyrie Irving and Derek Lively II there with the Mavericks right now. Are you expecting a good Duke crowd? What kind of environment do you think that we won't be there, obviously, but we'll be able to pick up on things throughout the TV set? What are you expecting to see there?
I mean, I think it'll be more of a road game, not even just Houston. Like the fans that will stay for the Duke game will turn against Duke. We've seen that all the time where, like, who is it? Marquette and State played before Duke?
Yep.
Yeah. Like, I'll be curious to see if State wins, I wonder if they'll cheer on Duke, or if they lose, like they stay and then they boo Duke and want Houston to pull off the upset. But we definitely know, like, it's going to be Houston and then other fans that want Duke to lose as well. But Duke, look, that's what makes Duke Duke. Nobody else has that type of, like, dead eye on them, and so we'll see.
Yeah. Here's what I can promise people. I can promise people that Jordan Mann will be on the show again next week. I can't promise that Duke basketball is still playing and that Duke will be preparing for a Final Four run. I really hope that's the case, Jordan. I'm not ready for the season to be over. We say it every year. My head and heart are both picking Duke to get the job done a little bit later this evening. I hope we can make that happen, man. But it's good to see you as always, pal.
I appreciate you having me, JJ, and I can't wait to do a video breakdown of tonight's game.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you soon, Jordan. Thanks for the time as always.
See you, brother.
All right. That's Jordan Mann joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Go check out his work. Follow him on X as well at JMan's Takes. That's going to do it for our show here today. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you again on Monday. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.